Good morning, Flosstube. My name is Laura, and I'd like to welcome you to Stitching by the Shore, my channel all about cross stitch with a little bit of paper crafting thrown in too. And today we have a little bit of that. If you are new, I want to say welcome. Thank you so much for pressing play and giving my channel a try. I hope you like what you see and you'll hit like and subscribe. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I will do my best to answer any questions you might have. Every once in a while, I can't find something when it comes to color changes, but I do my best. And if you're a returning stitching friend, thank you so much for being here today and any day you are here. I really do appreciate all of your support, and I appreciate being able to talk stitching with you. It makes my week every week. And it just makes Friday that much better. All right, so I have an ornament finish today to show you. I have a scrapbook page finish I have to show you, and then I know you're gonna say, "What happened, Laura?" I have 9 projects to show you today, so less than last week's 11. But really, that was because of Whip Frenzy. I don't think I usually ever would have that much to talk about having stitched. My thumb is feeling much better. Thank you so much for all of your well wishes. It was funny because I could stitch. It was the other direction that it was bothering me. So I kind of babied it for a few days. Anytime I wanted to put my hand down, I put, down on a fist. That always seems to help, whenever there's any issues. So I was able to get it back up and running. So that's good. So thank you so much. But I did kind of I was a little bit lighter on my stitching, for example, over the weekend. Mo and I did do a few things, and I don't know, time just seemed to get away from me. So it was definitely, I was more productive during the week, which is generally the case, than I am on the weekend. So that's what happened there. All right, so first, I am still working my way through, my St. Patrick's Day stitches that I want to put up on my little tree. Again, I don't really decorate seasonally. I'm not worried about that. My little tree, anything can go on it. I mean, I could even see throwing up. I have to finish. I've stitched Easter things that would go on the tree. I just have to fully finish them. I thought I had them up here because I was going to show you, but I think I have them one other place stored. So I just didn't get them. But this was what I did this week. So I wanted to do this one second because I used the same ribbon and the same fabric for the background on this, as the last one you had seen. So I had all the materials out. I can put those away now because there's 2 more that I'll show you later on in my plans, that if I get to my finishing tables, my craft table, my scrapbooking table, my stamping table, it's pretty much everything. If I get to that this week, those are the ones I wanted to focus on, as well as finding the Easter ones. I think I know where they are. This pattern, Shamrock Wishes and Irish Kisses, I believe is a Primrose Cottage. I stitched that a while back, and I stitched it on, I don't remember the name, I could look it up. This is I know it's Vintage Needle Arts. I think it's Vintage Needle Arts. One of her aidas. And then, like I said, I used the same backing fabric and the sparkly little ribbon. So there it is. If you're new, my design aesthetic is simple, basic, less is more kind of look. If you were to come into my house, you would notice that with my decorating all over the house, to be honest with you. The only place where I have a lot of stuff is this room right here, the craft room, because, I collect supplies, I collect, and I don't just stitch, I paper craft and all of that as well. And I have a bunch of that stuff still too. So really, when I can so appreciate when things have extra bows and ribbons and picks and either rickrack or chenille, or whatever it is, they're beautiful. It's just, I generally don't lean that way for my own stuff, but never say never. There's been times when I may add something, so it's just, I'll keep you on your toes. But that's that one right there. So that's gonna go on the tree now, at least with the other one, just so I can have it out and about for a little bit. Alrighty, let's see. You know what? I'm just gonna throw that on the floor. Okay. Then I did finish a scrapbook page, and this is very much simplicity. I just wanted to pull out colors in the pattern, but otherwise the page is very, very simple. These do not have to be elaborate, which is what I keep saying if you're not sure. If you want to start this process as a way to store your stitches, but you're not sure where to start, you don't have to go crazy with a lot of things. This is all just cardstock and pattern paper. So there it is. This stitch was a Barbara Anna, is a Barbara Anna, I should say. And I know it was stitched on a Fortnite Fabrics Aida. And so what I wanted to do, I loved this pattern paper, and it doesn't say on the back what it is. I'd probably cut off the little thing that said what it was. I just loved it because I thought that blue, especially these edges here, really matched the blues in her. And what I wanted to do was, you can see how it's darker here. I wanted that to show because I wanted that contrast between the light and the darker blue. So I have a very light blue, a different shade of blue cardstock that really matches the lighter blues. I put that as the backing. I thought about doing the brown, and I ended up thinking it was a bit too stark, but I did want to bring in the brown. Plus I wanted to contrast the light blue with the dark blue. And the brown pulls in some of the other deeper brownish shades. So it shows off the light blue, contrasts with the dark blue, and still pulls and ties in with the picture. That's the one thing when you're thinking about color, whether you're making cards or scrapbook pages or trading cards, whatever it happens to be paper related, think about what your main focus is. So for my stitching, I always take my main focus, I pull those colors out, and those are the colors that I use for the page. So super simple. So this will now go in the scrapbook. And like I've said before, when I have a full book, I will do flip throughs, or maybe even semi-full, especially if it's something that people would like to see how it's coming. If it's something you're thinking about, then, you know, I'll do a different video just for that. So that's that. And then I did get the ironing board out, and I ironed some interfacing on a bunch of other ones. So I thought I'd show you a few. And just to show you what I didn't do wrong, but I was kind of one step ahead of myself that I shouldn't have. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So you know, I had received for Happy Mail, somebody had stitched me this. So it now has the interfacing on the back. I use the Pellon, and I believe it's something F950, something F950. I'll link it down below. I have gotten it from 123 Stitch. I've gotten it from Etsy. I think I've gotten it from Amazon before. I know the last batch I did get from 123 Stitch because they had a sale on all their interfacing. So it's easily found. I don't have a Joann's near me. I'm sure I could get it there. I'd have to drive up to Dover if I wanted to go to Joann's. So, and Michael's doesn't have anything like that. As far as I can tell, at least my Michael's doesn't. I don't know if others do. So anyway, so this is ready to go. And when I scrapbook that, I'll show you. And then you had seen this one recently. This is my Forest by Satsuma. So that is all set to go. And then some of these are older. I'm trying to pull out the newest ones because you've seen them. Here's my little cottage. I think I'm going to pair that with something else in a minute. I'm going to show you for a page. No, that's not Little Cottage. This is Spring Cottage. Spring Birds. Spring Birds. Because I think it's Country Cottage Needleworks. This is a Little Cottage. This is one of my most recent finishes. And the Spring Birds, I thought I would pair with... Now, I did a color conversion on this. This was a pattern from Stitching with the Housewives that was in Punch Needle Primitive. So I think somehow what I'm going to do is I'm going to... I don't know if I do a green back page, and then what I might do is once this is cut down, I will mat this potentially with the blue that matches this, and mat this with the blue that matches that, so I can tie the two pieces together. But I think the birds would go really nicely with the word spring, somehow or other. So I think I'd make that one piece. And as always, I'll put the information on the back of the page so that I know where the different patterns came from. I won't list what changes I made, for example. That's in a different book, but I haven't decided if I'm going to do all the other ones yet. I thought this one was cute, so I did do that one. This one you'd probably have to go back to somewhere within my first 10 videos. I don't remember. That's an old piece. And even older, actually, which is probably my first few. We have this one. And then Annie B's. I love that one. That whale was quite a bit. And then the last one was Forest. Not Forest. Another Satsuma that was made me think of it with the rooster. I think it's called Good Morning. But what I wanted to mention, so for example, if I show you the back of Spring, see how I have all the material left. And so then what I've done is I've made the interfacing a little bit bigger because I know I want to cut this down and mat it tighter, you know. So I always think about how much fabric, but I can still, because it's a beautiful, this is actually a dove stitch or a fabric flare, because it's white on the back. I can show some of it if I want, but I don't need all this extra. So I kept this the full size, and let me see, actually this one might be easier to see because the backing is not white. I kept it the full size, and then I put the interfacing kind of a little bit bigger than the piece because I know I want to keep some fabric. Well, I got a little anxious originally, and for example, I had cut these down to size, thinking, okay, that's about the matting I want, and then interface them. Well, first off, then you have to really try to get the interfacing 100%, and here you can see it's a little bit longer, and it kind of restricts me in what I want to do, because maybe I wanted a bigger margin after rethinking it. Clearly, I put the cart before the horse. So my suggestion is, if you're going to scrapbook, I would keep the pages bigger. And this one's a great one too that Linda made me. It's nice big margins. And then I have plenty of space where I could put the interfacing, and then I can put this down. I can't wait to scrapbook this. So I would do it that way, and going forward I will. These were all done. I just got ambitious one day, grabbed the rotary cutter, and I was just cutting down margins. I wouldn't do it this way again. Keep them big, put your interfacing on, and then you can cut them down to the sizes you want. That would be my suggestion. Oh, did I show you this one? I did this too. Again, I kind of cut it down, although this, I think I'd do a little bit tighter. This is just a coffee tea dyed fabric of Aida, so it's nothing. It's not like some of the really fun fabrics that I've used, and so on and so forth. But so you might see some of these scrapbooked in the future. Sometimes it just depends if I have a whim. I have one piece, another one that I thought I might be showing you, but I'm not loving it. It needs something yet, so it's not quite ready to show you. But that's an idea of some things that might be coming. A little bit of tip that I learned the hard way. And I do have a playlist for the scrapbooking. It has 4 videos in it right now that talks about supplies, that talks about how I'm doing it. I'm sure it doesn't answer everything, so if you have any other questions, please feel free. I do want to make a playlist for the trading cards, and I only have a lowly 2 Stitch With Me so far, but there'll be a playlist for that as well, and then anything else different that I might do along the way. So now that I've figured it out, it took me a little bit. I knew I had seen it somewhere, and it took me ages to figure out where I had seen it. So now I can go back and do some other ones. But there is a playlist specifically for scrapbooking your stitches. And don't be afraid of it, but don't feel like you have to do it. If you really don't think it's for you, then don't do it. It really, I just don't have a place to display these, but I don't want them sitting under a bed, and I want them all in one place, so that at some point it might be something that my kids would want to keep as a memory. They're not keeping pillows, frames, this, that, and the other. They're not keeping all that. It's just going to end up being given away. So I wanted something that I enjoy, something I like, but then it's also something that down the line they might also enjoy as well. And if they don't, well, it's all contained. Somebody might want it. It's just in one little book, right? So there's no right or wrong, right? Everybody says there's no cross-stitch police. I need to remind people when they start to chastise me for scrapbooking my stitches that there is no cross-stitch police. We can all do what we want with our cross-stitch. All right, anyway, I'm off my soapbox on that. Every time is something new. You know, when you went away from framing, it was kind of this big deal or whatever. There's all sorts of different ways to do it. It's just whatever works for you. Alrighty, so I said I have 9 projects, so let's get going on those. Now this first one, so you know I have been making a real concerted effort this year, at least, well, not the entire year, but the last month certainly, and I do want to continue this. Really looking through, and I think I've done it each week, my projects and picking out older projects that have not seen work in ages. This project I think got work 1 week out of the entire year. And it just they all, you know, sometimes they just fall by the wayside. It's not that, and there were 1 or 2 that I did get rid of that just didn't work for me. But sometimes it's just me having to reevaluate how or what I'm going to stitch. And that's the case with this one. So I'm talking about Long May She Wave. It's Stitching with the Housewives. And I think in the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit quite a bit from here. Now, obviously some things are stitched, so it is, and I'm fine with what's stitched so far. I'll show you. I had already previously edited out the chickens. What I did in the case of this chicken was I added another flower to the base, and this flower I made a little higher. So let me show you what I have so far, and then I want to show you what you might see going forward. And it's given me, it's kind of like when I decided with Kringles to go from 3 stories to 2. It made more sense in my brain for me, and then I would want to keep stitching it. So this is what I have. This is an 18 count navy from Garibaldis. They were one of the first that I had found on Etsy when I was first realizing that there was such a thing as hand-dyed fabrics. I didn't know the difference. This is a Charles Craft, and I generally get Zweigart at this point. I don't get Charles Craft. I don't mind the Charles Craft. I actually find it's thicker. So for me, if I wanted a more substantial piece, at least this, I don't know if it's the case with all Charles Craft. And I don't know if it dyes any differently than the Zweigart. I really don't know enough about the hand dyeing to know that. But I have maybe, I don't even know, a handful, I shouldn't say several, a handful of Charles Craft fabrics that I'll at some point use, or if I don't think I'm going to, I'll give away. But I really liked the navy. I thought the colors would go really nice against the navy versus the stark black, so that's where I went with that. Now, I would have gotten more time stitching, but I decided I wanted to frog a little bit. That means pull out if you're new to stitching, and I wanted to unstitch, so to speak, a few things I had stitched. It wasn't much. I hadn't gotten far with that part. So this is what it looks like. And I'm fine with nothing on top of here. I thought maybe of putting like a dog. I know I can either find a small dog. I know for Kimberly Fat Quarter Stitch, over different patterns, they've done little dogs, and some of their other charts have dogs. I like it the way it is. I really like how I did this with the 3. So we've got, remember the rule of odds kind of in the decorating. So I've got the 3 right there, and then I've got that flower going up, and I really like that. So let's just talk about what you are not going to see. So I've made the decision, I am not going to put flowers underneath here. I will keep the grass, and there are in a few cases like little sprigs of grass that come up. I think I like that much better. I don't think it needs flowers underneath. I will keep the flowers back here. I am changing the truck. I am probably, you can see in the front, see how there's a white line? I'm taking out all of this bunting. I will keep the flag at the door right here, but for me, I don't feel like the bunting adds to the truck, so I will do a white line across, and then the truck will be all that color. I am using the DMC alternative that was recommended. This was back when I still wasn't changing colors, It's fine. I might have gone slightly different, knowing what I know now, but I'm okay with it. Then I will keep the flowers in the back, but I am not doing the flag in the back. I have a flag and a flag. I don't need a third one. And what else? I'm not going to do the flower that's sticking out of the truck. I just want this downward border. And then all those little tiny little things that I don't know if they're supposed to be bees. They're little clusters of white, which is what I pulled out because I had done a few of those in a couple different places. It's mostly like little stitches of white, and then there's a yellow in there. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be bees or floating flowers or what they are exactly. But I think I'm going to like the simplicity of it better for me. If you want to stitch every stitch of this or any chart, that's fine. Absolutely go for it. I think pulling it back and scaling it back makes more sense for my brain and my sense of design. And I think letting this fabric shine a little bit, especially back here, and you can let the color shine through of the fabric. And I think all of the other thing I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see these flowers here, the blue ones, they're stripes. I'm actually going to fill them in. So in that case, I am adding some stitches because I want it to be a filled in flower, just like the other flowers are filled in. Especially because those are blue stripes on my blue fabric. I think I'm not exactly sure if I would like that look anyway, but I think I'll like the filled in look, especially because it's surrounded by white, so the blue will show. But I wanted to highlight the color of the fabric. I wanted to honor the sense of myself where I prefer things slightly simpler. I'm a simple person when it comes to decor and decorating and things like that. I'm a simple person in a lot of things. I just like them simple. And so I think that will work better for me. And it will, I think all this stuff for me was holding me back, and I would look at it, and as I passed by it when I was looking at what to stitch on a given day, I would just flip right by it because I'm kind of like, oh, there's so much stuff, and it took me until looking at it this week to really evaluate and say, you know what? I've already done that with other charts. Why can't I do it with this chart? It gave me more of a sense of peace with the chart, and I think going forward, I'll stitch more of it. Okay, that was a very long-winded way to say it's going to look different when it's done than what you see there. And that, of course, will be scrapbooked, so it'll be different in that sense, too. All right, I have a little bit of a thread right there. Okay, next, I pulled out, I really like this one. I can't wait to scrapbook this one. I already have the pictures of the kids and the butterflies. This is from, and I forget every single time, I should write it down on my notes. It is from Just Cross Stitch magazine, and it is the August 2021 issue. Isn't that beautiful? I picked a different color fabric because I really wanted those oranges and yellows to pop out. This is designed by Anna Pavlyuk. It's the best, and it's just called Butterfly. And there we go. This is an 18 count unnamed fabric from Coffee Crafts Fabrics. Coffee Crafts has, as I say this quite often, they have a Facebook page. Their stuff is generally not named. It's kind of one-offs, I think. And lately I've seen her stitching a lot of, dyeing a lot of linen, which of course I would never use. And not a lot of 18 count Aida. And then I miss it when she does have it. But her stuff is beautiful. This is not the only piece I have. I also have another project on, I have one of my gnomes on one of her fabrics, and I really enjoy her Aidas and stitching them. She has a Facebook group, and that's where she sells out of, and she is a UK-based hand dyer. So for my UK friends, it might be a little bit easier for you shipping-wise. And I built the top frame of the butterfly. So the butterfly, you'll think when you look at it here that the top and the bottom, the frame of it, so to speak, is the same color, but it's not. I want to say it's 3371, yep, for the top, and then it does go down to black for the bottom. So it'll be a very subtle shade difference, but there is a slight difference with the with the top frame and the bottom. I haven't really done a lot, except for the center here, in the black yet. And I'm probably, actually, no, nope, that's the 3371. I wouldn't be surprised if I pulled out Anchor Black. Yeah, I did, for the black, because there is so much black. I'll use 310 if there's small spots. I don't mind 310. But when there's larger pieces of black, for some reason in my mind, I prefer the Anchor. I'm not sure I could verbalize why, but it's just what I prefer. But I love this fabric. The blues and subtle, subtle greens, I think, are really going to make this pop. And I think it's going to be really nice with the pictures from the Butterfly Museum, our many, many trips. And I'm really looking forward to getting that one stitched and finished and scrapbook, which means I should really put more of a focus on it. When I want to say I started it this year. What I did, after I did my project parade, I had everything listed. It's the only time I ever have everything listed with numbers. And I went through and I picked out, I think it was 13, so a baker's dozen of projects. I don't think I really was figuring out a specific number. And I just highlighted them saying these could be finished in the course of this year. Could be, should be, slash, whatever you want to say. And I think I've finished 5 of them so far, with a couple close to a finish. What I should do is start figuring out what I have from this year that could also be a potential finish for this coming year, and figure that out as well. And what I might do, I know that Carla from Carla Being Crafty, I think it's November and December, for her end of the year, she picks projects that she wants to get a finish, and I think it might be 10, and she really, they don't all get done, but she puts more of a focus on them to get them finished. So maybe, I don't know if it's just December, if it's November and December, I look back at this list, see what's still out there, and see if anything is potentially, could be a finish. And then that's what I'll do, I think. So thank you, Carla, for that idea. All right, now, this next one here, I shattered the screen of my iPad. Oh, I'm going to do it this way yesterday. So I'm using Mo's iPad. Now, unfortunately, I can't even, can I make this bigger? I don't think so. Let me see if nope. I can't even make this bigger. So this is now, unfortunately, a retired piece from Heaven and Earth Designs. And there it is right there. It's Minnie Watching the World Go By. The artist is by Lucy Pittaway. And I think it was very sudden, because all of a sudden I just saw a note saying that they were all retired. Lucy Pittaway has retired from Heaven and Earth, all of her designs, and I want to say now she's selling them as kits. And for some reason I want to say Bothy Threads, but I really, really don't know if it's Bothy Threads. And again, I don't want to act like I know something I don't. I could have sworn I saw somewhere somebody had posted a picture of one of the kits that I mean, it's already out and available, but I don't know that for a fact. I could just be imagining it. Sometimes I think I make things up in my head, and then I'm sure it happened when it didn't happen. But sadly, I have at least 1 or 2 other Lucy Pittaways, but I didn't realize that they were going to retire, so I didn't pick them up. But I'll just have to enjoy what I do have. So this is, I had started this last Thursday, but I decided not to show it to you because it really didn't have much stitching to it. It ended up with 1,000 stitches, so I thought now would be the time to show you. So this is Minnie Watching the World Go By, artwork by Lucy Pittaway. It was charted by Heaven and Earth, but is now retired. 18 count white Aida, 2 strands over 1 full cross. And I did a little bit, well, like, I think you know me by now, especially if you've been watching a lot. With my full coverages, I'm all over the place. So I did continue some more of the greens, and I did a little bit of that. I certainly kept going with the blues because there's a big chunk there. It's going to come down. I can't, yeah, oops. It's going to come down quite a bit before you get to the kind of the horizon. And then I also started the clouds on this side, because then you have this big mass of clouds. The sky comes down, and then you have another big mass of clouds, and they kind of meet in the middle. So I figured I wanted to get some of those done as well. There's a decent amount of confetti-ish in the clouds, so that's a little bit slower going. And the one thing, there's two symbols that are very, very, very similar, and they're in among the clouds. And I know for sure I've messed up a few times where I have done the wrong color in a few different spots, but it is the way it is. I'm not pulling stuff out at this point, but that's what I have. So that'll go back now. That'll go away for a little bit, and I will rotate to the next one. I'm not sure what I'm going to choose. I have maybe somewhat of an idea. I think I might pick one in the spirit of pulling out projects that you haven't seen in a while. I may end up pulling out one that you really haven't seen in a while. Besides my project parade, I probably didn't stitch on it at all last year, but I'm not sure on that. So that might be the next full coverage you see. Okay, next I pulled out, as I want to do, Owl Forest Embroidery Black Vintage Sampler. I so enjoy stitching on this one. Oh, I love it. I love all the different little pieces. I'm doing it monochromatic, so I really don't have to worry about changing colors. I'm doing it with Anchor Black. I decided I really wanted to have a fun fabric color and then just highlight all of that with the black. So this is 18 count Rainy Day by Bestitchme. It is, every single time I look at that, I just really do love it. It's probably one of my favorite fabric colors that I'm working on. Let me come bend it over here because I really focused over here. I finished up this balloon. I added more to the house. So there's another window here. And then I stitched her. And I really messed her up. So I cannot base anything off of her coming down at all. I was watching, I decided, okay, I pulled this out. I said, she was only done maybe through her arm and this arm. And I don't even know if this full arm, that's it, in her head. And I said, I wanted to get her done in a stitching session. And I put on Sunshine Stitchers, which clearly was a mistake. Well, no, I was watching something else, and then I moved to Sunshine Stitchers for down here, and I totally messed this up. But I think I made it work. I originally was just going to stop because I basically missed a line, which kind of messed up the whole design of her dress. And I really would have had to pull out a lot of stitches, and I just wasn't feeling that. And so I could have just stopped, but where she ends, where he ends, and where the house ends is all even. And then you'll see over here, these two pieces are also. So it would have looked a little bit unusual if I had finished her one row early. So I ended up adding another row. I brought this out a bit, which is fine because the piece it's next to, it's not right up against it. I will be one stitch closer to the house, so I think there's only going to be one stitch between her. I have to actually put the line down, but there was originally 3 stitches between the end of her dress here and the house, so now there'll either be only 1 or 2. I can't remember. So it'll look a little bit different, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things it's going to make much of a difference. I was worried, obviously, that she'd run into the house, but I think it's fine. So that was, and I didn't do any border. I really do. I think, well, you know what? I might have done that one piece of the border. I didn't do much border. I'm finishing up what's here, and then I really do need to focus on the border coming down here, and then I just keep going back and forth with the house because the house is massive, and you obviously get the look of the house from stitching one part, and then the negative comes out, which is what gives you the design. And so there's a lot of that to come in the bottom half of the house. The negative is going to make the house look what it is. So I need breaks from that. I can't focus on that just to my brain it needs a break. So the smaller pieces are great for that. You know, they give you a chance to stitch some of the other stuff and not have to think quite so hard and count. I learned the hard way if I'm zooming not to do those hard pieces because I have messed up a few different times on the house. So that needs to be done when I have all of my attention and just my attention. Okay, next I pulled out Serena Sprout from Autumn Lane Stitchery. When I was pulling out, I actually had pulled out because I needed information on a few pieces of what the fabric was so that I could tell you as I was working on them. I had pulled out my notes from the Project Parade in January. And what I had done on there was, just for my own, I had listed when each of the items was started. So this was started last year. Most of my starts or my projects are from 22 and 23. I do have a handful, and my full coverages will be for ages and ages. They'll be carried over. At some point, the Project Parade will be front heavy full coverage because those are going to take forever to stitch, and then all the other stuff. But this one was started of April of last year, I realized. So we're coming up on 1 year on this one. I don't know if I put in there that I think I did say I could get this finished this year, which I could. I don't know if I will. There's still a lot to stitch. I mean, this whole area there's a big chunk of full coverage. Her dress is taking me forever. And then there's a lot of little pieces all over the place. And I'll leave the back stitching. There's not a ton. If there was a lot of back stitching, I think I would do it as I go along. But it's small enough amounts that I will leave it to the end. Just because I'm not always secure in how strong my back stitching may or may not be, especially if it's kind of just on its own rather than just outlining something. And so I want to make sure it's secure and do it at the end, because again, I'm just not 100% sure if I am starting and stopping them to the point where they're not going to come undone if I handle it a lot. I mean, once it's in a scrapbook or framed or whatever, it's not going to matter. But until that time, I'll wait. So I did a lot of this down here. I did a focus on that. I did add more of the dress. I know you're not necessarily going to see that, but those are my two areas of focus. This doesn't look like a lot of stitching. It is. It's way more than you think it is. Like usual, right? So 18 count Honeydew Melon from To Die For fabrics. So that's what it looks like. And I just pull this out kind of willy-nilly when I feel like it. There's no rhyme or reason as to why I pull it out. I just felt like stitching on it this weekend, so I did. Now this one, I'm not going to put the pressure on myself to say this will be finished next week, but it could be finished next week. This is Winter Quaker from Jardin Prive. If you're unfamiliar, she does have all 4 seasons. I've already fully finished, well, not fully finished. I have finished stitching spring. I am almost done with winter, and I'm halfway through summer. They are all being stitched with DMC 823, and all of them are being stitched on a bright color of a fabric that I associate with that season. So spring is in a brighter pink, summer is in a brighter yellow, this is in a brighter blue, and I will find kind of a brighter, I'm not sure I want to say orange because I don't want it to go too Halloween-y, but a brighter peach, I think is what I aim for. And I think the 823 would go nice against that. So this is all of it. This top part has been done for a while. So let me just bend it down a bit. And I really focused on this building is huge. I actually worked on this during a Zoom call. I didn't quite get it done during that, but I did stitch on that. And then I had a little bit left of this tree to go. So after I finished the house, I came back over here and finished the tree. So all I have left, and it's so silly, why this house is the one that's left, let me see, is because just counting off the little plume of smoke from the chimney. It's like I didn't feel like doing it every time I went to pick a house. So I didn't. So that's the last one I have to do. I could do the house first now because I can count the house off of either side and then just do that little bit of smoke off the chimney. This house right here was over 500 stitches. So this one probably will be a good chunk too. At the bottom of these pieces, she does have different houses on every single one of them. And they're bigger than you realize. I think too, because a lot of these elements, they're smaller, they're quicker, they go fast, so that the houses kind of take you by a little bit by surprise. Now they're easy counting, so it's not like it's super strenuous that way, but it definitely throws you for a loop. This is 18 Count Sky from Atomic Ranch. And I think it came out really nice on this one. So maybe this will be a finish next week. Possibly. I think I started, I can't remember now. This might have gotten started. If it didn't get started this year, it got started at the very end of last year. But those are fairly quick stitches if you're thinking of stitching them. I've really enjoyed them. You can do them all as one piece, and Jardin Prive does provide measurements for that, so you would know what your fabric would need to be, because all of the pieces kind of they kind of go, let's see here. In fact, no, not 100%, but in some cases, each of the edges will match up, and then you leave a little space in between. In some of the cases, it doesn't. But like I said, that's the full piece right there. So if that is something you would want to do, for example, if I was going to do it on, no, this area doesn't tell me that. It just tells me what this one piece is. But I know I have seen somewhere where they have given a reference of how much it would be if you wanted to do the whole thing. Okay, so this one right here, the last time I have to pull out the iPad here, is I wanted to do this for my categories event in March. I only finished 3 of the prompts. In the end, I didn't do so great with it, but that's okay. I did a lot of other different kind of events and games in March. But a pattern title needed to start with the letter N, and this is November Gnome. These are actually, they're called Autumn Gnomes, and this one is the November version. It'd be a September, October, November. So this is the one I am stitching on, Wonderland, Ukraine. Now, just for point of reference, I didn't realize this. So Wonderland, Ukraine, if you go to the side, usually what I would do is I would go to Wonderland, Ukraine, and then I'd pick PDF patterns. And I was flipping through and I couldn't find any of the, well, no, I couldn't find any of the gnomes. And I'm thinking, where are all the gnomes? Please tell me they're not giving them up. If you keep scrolling down in the, say, table of contents, whatever, the section, at the very bottom, there's something called original PDF patterns. That's where you can find the gnomes. So there's PDF patterns up top and then near the bottom, and they may switch that around. It's easy to switch all of those around. You just, you know, up arrow, down arrow them. But at the moment, as of today, it was original PDF patterns, and it was at the very bottom of the layers. So again, so that's what it'll eventually look like. I'm not stitching that box around it because I'm using fabric that is similar to that. So that's what I ended up with. This is 18 count Buttercream from To Die For Fabrics. I thought, well, one, I usually do like to use the box of reference around the gnomes as a guide to what I might do for my fabrics, and then just not stitch the box. In this case, I want to say this box, some of the boxes are full crosses, and some of them, unless they've changed it, maybe they're all half crosses now. I've noticed with some of the patterns that I've started now, the box is just half crosses. I did, again, I jumped all over. I brought the hat down some more. It's going to get a bunch of different colors, a few different colors here, so big confetti-ish. I did add some more here. I did a little bit more. It's tough to see that flower in the center yet, but it's going to be surrounded by all sorts of colors. So in the end, I think you'll be able to see it just fine. You'll notice I cut the margins really tight on this. I got a little nervous, and I actually did do some counting. I plan on scrapbooking the gnomes, so I'm not worried about, you know, 3 inches of border and so on and so forth, but I do want some because I do want to highlight the color of the fabric of the different ones. And I'm pretty sure they're all the same size, I'm hoping, because then they can all be cut exactly the same size. So when you're flipping through, and I'll put them one after the other in the scrapbook, you'll see a sense of continuity there. But I did get a little nervous. I don't know what I was thinking. I got a little cut heavy. I think it's fine up, well, even here it's tighter, but on the sides, I was really nervous. I went to, when I cut the winter one, I said, oof, I looked at this as a reference. I said, no way am I using this as a reference because this is tight. So I did get that prompt done, and I did some more on this little guy here. Now, I just wanted to throw this out there, and I don't know if this is what I'm going to do. Somebody had suggested, you know, I've talked about I'm going to start Summer Quaker from Leela's Studio, and I'm just trying to figure out fabrics. And I, of course, immediately go to light blue because, you know, blue is my happy place. And I think all of those colors would look really nice on blue, light blue. Light enough that I think all of those colors would look fine. Somebody did suggest a yellow, a light yellow. And I wonder, I'm going to throw I'm going to toss the flosses on that too and see. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still a ways away from figuring that out. But thank you for the suggestion. That was a really great idea. I hadn't really thought of that. I think what I'll do is I will, for the most part, there might be a few things that might blend in a little bit, but I think this is light enough that it might not. So I'm going to see. I haven't figured out if I do a blue, what blue. So there's nothing to compare it against yet. So I don't really have an idea, but if you are planning on stitching that, I would love to know what you're using for fabric. I know several of you have said that you're going to stitch that, and I know several of you have also talked about the winter from, I don't know if it's just called Winter Sampler from Crocetta Go-Go or what it's exactly called, but I'm super excited. That one I have a little bit more cluelessness as to what fabric I'm going to use, but that one's going to be started later, so I have more options. Okay, speaking of Kringles, I spoke of it earlier when I was talking about evaluating a pattern and changing it so that I would want to keep it up, and Kringles was definitely one of them. This is from Little House Needleworks. I'm sure most of you have seen it. It came out, this was a May start back in maybe 2020. Either 2020 or 2021. I want to say possibly 2020. I'm not 100% sure. But I did it. I did the top. I had done the top borders of the bricks and so on and so forth, and I just stalled. And when I decided that I wanted to eliminate a floor, it reinvigorated my interest in stitching this. I'm not sure I would have kept with it if I said I was going to keep it the full piece. I've seen it done with all 3 floors, and it's gorgeous. But for me, it just wasn't going to happen. So I did cut it down to the 2 floors. So the structure is entirely built. It is 18 count Artemis from Bestitchme that I chose. I think given these kind of color schemes that the gray goes nicely with that. Now, really, all I did this week with my stitching, and I'm not kidding when I say it, was I built this clock. I had a little bit of the exterior structure of it, but so this pattern as written is 6 pages, and this clock is pretty much smack dab in the middle of the pattern. If you can see it, smack in the middle of the store. So it crosses 4 different pieces of paper. If I was smart, I would have made extra copies of the 4 of them and cut and pasted them all together and but in my brain, that seemed more effort than flipping through 4 pages. I mean, in hindsight, that's what I would have done. And if you plan on doing it, I mean, otherwise, everything else is either just a top and bottom or a side to side. This, though, if you plan on doing this, I would suggest maybe making copies of those 4 pages and cutting and pasting, because it took me 3 times as long as it would have. And you can see it's not even done yet. All I have to do, though, is the clock face. And I don't know if you can tell, but so the clock face, it suggested you use 1 color of floss, and it might be the DMC. Yes, you blend a DMC 422 with a Versoix size 4, and it gives the number. Well, I know nothing about a Versoix, and I know when it came to some suggestions, some of you had suggested Petite Treasure Braid, and I was able to get that at Sea Needles in Bethany Beach, Delaware. So it is a small, It's heavier on the knitting than it is on the cross stitch, but it is a Needleworks store. And they did have Petite treasure braids. So I picked up a bunch of different colors, some of which are brighter. This one is definitely, do I have it here? I can show you. It is definitely more subdued as a gold. It is PB02. So I picked that up, and I am combining this with the 422. So I am doing that, one strand of each. And that's what I got so far. I've never used Petite treasure braids, so I think I'm doing it right. I don't know. It seems to be coming out okay. Now, that blend shows up in a bunch of other places, like down here, there's chandeliers and these lights. I might not use the PB02. I did pick up a few other golds because I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I was down there, and I don't see myself going down there once the season starts, because to get there, traffic gets really heavy. So I picked up, you know, maybe 3 or 4 different golds. Some of them are brighter, and for this area, for the lights, I might use the brighter ones because I want that to, I mean, it's only going to be a little piece, so how much is going to sparkle? But because it is a little piece, I think the smaller part might look nicer. So once this middle section is done, then I'm going to decide, I do want the chandeliers, and then I'll decide the other rooms. I know I talked about, I would love a room where if I could find a Santa sitting in a chair and, you know, maybe a sign, you know, pictures, but kind of like an old school Miracle on 34th Street Santa, you know, what was that? Was it Macy's? It was Macy's, and because it was the 2 store, I can't remember. But I've looked high and low, and I consider myself a pretty good Googler. If I need to look for something, I'm pretty good at looking at all sorts of different types of keywords, and I cannot find what I'm looking for because I would want a profile of Santa sitting in a chair. I really can't even find Santa sitting in a chair, and it'd have to be small. So, so far, no luck. I may end up, you know, basically just using that picking pieces of the different rooms in, when it comes to that, but, that'll be the last thing, you know, that last room. I'll wait just to see if I can find something, but so far no such luck. All right, last one, Carolyn's Balloons Winter. I pulled this one out, and I pulled out the Blackbird Halloween that I'm doing. What's it called? Midnight Watch. And I just decided I wanted little houses and not big giant houses. So even though this balloon is not done yet, I think I'm going to build the town first because that's kind of fun. It's lots of little pieces, and then I'll go back and do this. And then, like I stated before, I'm a little ballooned out. I do at some point have spring coming if I ever get my pre-order, but it's gonna wait for a little bit, and I'll give myself a balloon break because I did this one right after I finished autumn. So that's where it is. This is an 18 count Lady of the Lake by Fabrics by Stephanie. And there's the town. I did bits and pieces because some of the different colors will go from one house to the other. So I just looked at them, and because I had that roof started, so I could do some of this house while I was doing over here. So I mixed and matched on each side. Some of these shades, the grays and some of the lighter blues, they do blend in a little bit in my blues and my fabric. If I had to do it again, I may have changed a few of them, but I think overall it's going to look good, and it's not worth it to me to have to sit there now and change it. But if I had to do it again, I might have looked at it a little closer. I absolutely love this color fabric though. I wouldn't change that for the world. And I love how the white pops on it. This whole town is going to be in snow at the bottom. And then I still have some small snowflakes to do around. So it'll tie it in a little bit more that way too. So I'm not sure. You'll see this periodically because I would like to get it done. And I do like doing the little town part. That's fun. So, and I would like to get that one finished this year. So you will see that one this year as well. And then you'll see a break. Spring's cute though. I mean, I haven't looked at it in person, of course, but I've just seen pictures of it and it looks cute. All right, so that is my stitching for this week. Plans. So the big plan, well, let's do the little plan first. So I have 2 more St. Patrick's kind of items. This one, I want to say, it didn't say O'Shea, of course. This was part of a freebie. I changed the size because I didn't want it as big, and it had something else. I know it didn't have anything else. I just changed it to make it a little bit more symmetrical. I found a font online to put O'Shea, and then I'll make an ornament out of that. That may end up going on the tree at Christmas potentially, but any other time of the year it can go up as well. And then this one is from Helen D. Very simple. I actually think I used a sulky variegated, which was the first time I've ever done a variegated on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is because of the way the coloring of the letters are. And then I used, it's not a toile, I used something sparkly for here. I'm not really sure what. And so those 2, and I'm not 100% sure. So I'm showing you the back there. Just like the other 2 ornaments had the same fabric backing, I'm debating on using this for these. What I'll do is I'll put them on their comic book board and then I'll lay them on here and see if it's a little too much. That's what it would look like as a whole. And then I would use a deeper hunter greenish sort of thing for the ribbon up top. So that's a potential if I can get myself to the craft table this week. Then I have this wonderful bag that, speaking of Helen D, she had, her and I were stitching the same thing, and she had some extra fabric, and she had this that she had done. So she very incredibly made one for me. What I would like to work on, so Helen finished this past month On the Beach from Stitcherovia. Now she made it a little bit smaller. She cut off her top row, which is brilliant because it fits just so in a frame that she wanted to do. I started top down. I can't really cut out the ocean, but this is where I am. So I think what I'm going to do for April is make it my 25/7 piece and every day put in 25 minutes of stitching and see where I can be from the start of the month to the end of the month. So that's my goal on that one. And that's my plan for April. I did show you some other patterns last week that I would like to stitch. There's definitely, obviously, the April's Daisy from Cottage Garden. And then some other ones that I saw that really kind of tickled my fancy. So those might be it too. And I don't know what I'll pull out. If the full coverage I pull out will fulfill my, this week, my old piece that hasn't seen some love, or if I'll pick another one too that's smaller as well as the full coverage. We'll see. So there's that as well. All right, shopping. I only have one bit of shopping to show you. I picked up some fabrics from To Dye for Fabrics. I know you're shocked. If you're not following her on Facebook, so right now what she does, she's changed her model on her Etsy shop. So she has Kimberly has a website which has all her colors listed, everything she's dyed, and she has the recipes for. And then she has an Etsy shop, which is where she directs you to actually buy fabrics. So at one point what she did was she had a ton of fabrics listed for custom colors that you would buy the listing and then she would make it within whatever 3 to 5 weeks. So she's changed the model for 2023, and what she's done now is she is ready to ship items. That's what's in her Etsy shop. Everything in her Etsy shop is made ready to ship. But she says at any point, if you go to her website and you request a certain color, she'll put you in the queue for dyeing, and she will make any of those colors for you if she can. I know like a couple of dark colors she can't do on even weave or something like that, but you know that already. A lot of the hand dyers say that. But so the long-winded part of that though is on Facebook, she lists when she puts and she's made a new color and she's dyed some, if she's added some listings. In fact, that's how I found these. And I may or may not have a few more coming because she had showed a really pretty piece, and it was a one-off, I think, because she's now trying to mix and match 3 colors in some cases. That might have been a 2-color mix though. But watch her Facebook, follow her Facebook if you like her fabrics, because you know, I don't know how many of any given color goes up in the Etsy shop, but if there's something that you say, I have to have that, then you want to get over there and get it, because, you know, a lot of that doesn't necessarily last long. But if you have a favorite color of hers, for example, I like Honeydew Melon for a lot of my greens. If she doesn't have any of that, I could go to her and say, can I have this size of 18 count Aida in Honeydew Melon? And she'll put it in her list of dyeing. And I want to say, I don't know, I'm not going to quote her time frame, but she's pretty quick even when she's hand dyeing. The custom pieces, the ready to ship pieces are out within that week. So if you order something, within a couple days you'll get a shipping notice. And so it comes from Florida, so depending on where you are, how fast it'll get to you. The first 2 I have don't have names on them, so they must be one-offs. But the last one has a name, so I think that would be something you could ask for. Of course, I'm just going to show these are unnamed, but they're 2 blues, because you know I must have blue at all time. So for example, this is a really light blue, and it's an 18 by 21, but I think I measured, and I think Summer Quaker from Lila Studio will work on an 18 by 21. Like something like this. If I toss all the flosses, I bet you that's just a nice, think of how those deep navies and reds will look on this. So like that's something like a possibility for that. Again, I'm going to explore the whole yellow idea as well. I know somebody who has a very light, I don't know if it's a peach or pink that she might be using, which I think is a beautiful idea too. But that's a possibility. And of course I must have all the blues. And then this one is called Enchanted, and it is a very light purple. And you know that this shade of purple is something that I actually like doing Christmas on. I did a different shade of purple. I did summer on. I don't consider purple just like a spring thing. I really think it can be or Halloween. It can be so many different things. So I picked that up as well. And that's it. I know I have fabric of the month coming from Bestitchme because I got that shipping notice. And I have a few more pieces coming from To Dye For as well because I got that shipping notice. So fabric is my weakness, right? That is the one thing. I could hold off a lot of times potentially on patterns or certainly on variegated flosses or some of the other like different things you can spend your money on, but fabrics, they get me every time. All right, so that's that. Giveaway. So I do have a 1-week reminder. Remember last week I chose a new name for my April's Daisy because the original winner ended up buying it themselves. So Laura Greenwood, 1 more week, please. If you could get back to me with your address, I will send this out to you. If I don't hear by next video, I will choose a new winner because I still do have all the names. Okay, so Laura, get back to me. This week, I didn't do one last week because I had like 4 that I wanted to kind of get out and about. This week, I'm going back to 1. So when I first got back to stitching, I was still living in Connecticut, and there was still a store in Connecticut called Thistle Needleworks that back when I was stitching, first started stitching in the early 90s, that was where I, late 80s, early 90s, that was where you got your cross stitch stuff from. And they've moved from Glastonbury to Wethersfield, but they were still around, so I went there. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. I was overwhelmed and didn't know all of the new stuff that was out there. And I had imagined, I was in the process of simplifying my life and my decorations a bit more. And I had envisioned stitching this one, and eventually putting it up, but I just don't see that happening. I had a very, very, very small start. I started in the center with the words. I'll show it to you in a second, and it just wasn't going to happen. And I could stitch it and put it in a scrapbook, but there's so many things I want to stitch that I decided I wanted to pass this on. So if you are a beach lover like I am, this is it's Coastal Welcome, and it is designed by Ursula Michael, Imaginating, and I'm going to do this as the giveaway this week. So if you would like me to put your name in for this piece, please say the word welcome. It's beautiful with all the pinks and the blues. I think it's really, really pretty. Ursula Michael does some fabulous stitching patterns. But I would like to share this one. And if some point down the line I decide I do want to stitch it, and I'll just get another one. I know how to find it. But I would like to share this one. So again, say the word welcome. I'll put your name in the blue bowl and we will choose a winner next time. All right, so that's the stitching. That's it. I don't have a lot of life stuff. But if you don't care about the life stuff, then I'll see you next time. Alrighty, so I went to the dentist. So my thumb is better. That's good. I went to the dentist on Tuesday. Thank you all for the well wishes on that as well. I had a filling that had fallen out. Apparently, all I could tell was there was a hole there. It didn't bother me in the least, but the dentist said he felt like he needed to fill it just in case, because that little hole could become a big hole. Or the little section that, so while there was a gaping hole in the tooth, there was only a little section that was like exposed. I didn't feel any pain or, sensitivity to heat or cold or anything like that. But he was just a little concerned. There was just something enough there that he felt like he needed to refill it. Now, I can count on less than one hand the number of fillings I have. I could probably count on 2 fingers the number of fillings I have. So I really didn't remember what the whole Novocaine thing felt like and so on and so forth. So that was a new thing for me. First off, my impressions. First off, it took forever to get, okay, the needle's just a little prick, but you're waiting and waiting and waiting for him to like get all of the stuff in. I don't know exactly. And I was like, oh, come on. It just feels weird. So it took forever. And then it is so weird. Like the tip of my tongue first got numb and then everywhere gets numb, whatever. And he did the work, whatever. He didn't actually have to drill more than 10, 15 seconds. He said, I just need to rough it up. So that was good. I still didn't like it, but so on and so forth. The job takes 5-10 minute tops. That's all it took. So wow, I think I waited longer for the Novocaine to kick in than it actually took him to do the job. But what really floored me was how long the Novocaine takes before it wears off. So after 3 hours, I looked online because, like I said, I can Google like a pro. How long does it take for Novocaine to wear off? Did you know it takes a good 3 to 5 hours for Novocaine to wear off? In some cases, it can be longer. Apparently, there's something that the dentist can give you that will make it wear off faster, but I did not want another poke or whatever. And I don't even know if my dentist does it, I suppose if it was lingering or something, maybe they would. But I did find out that warm compresses can also help make it wear off faster because you're bringing blood to the area, and physical activity. And I hadn't done my workout for the day. So I did my workout at like 11:30 because I went first thing in the morning. I was a 7:30 appointment. And so finally, I want to say 4 hours after it was all done, I had feeling again. But actually I was sitting there putting my notes against the, and I'll take it off afterwards. It was coming off, but it doesn't really matter if it falls off now. The filling part was not an issue. It was just waiting for, I was able to drink, but they're like, don't eat because you could, seriously bite your tongue and hurt yourself, which was fine. If I didn't eat, I usually eat. I've been finding myself eating breakfast a little bit later in the day. Anyway, not first thing in the morning. So that wasn't a problem, but it was more just like I wanted to get feeling back. And then the rest of the day, my tooth didn't hurt a lick, but where he had put the needle in did hurt. So I did take some ibuprofen, and that seemed to take it away. So that was my impression of the dentist appointment. He said, so what are you going to do today after this? I said, well, it depends on how this all turns out. But it all turned out fine. I didn't have any specific plans anyway, because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel. But yeah, so that's all set. So now hopefully we have no other tooth issues and I don't have to have Novocaine again, because I just didn't like that. be quite honest with you. Other than that, craft room update. I have shelves that Mo has to put up, and then I really do have to, I have to buckle down and clean / organize. I'm looking at the different messy spots right here. There's a window right here. So you have the edge of my DMC cabinet, and then you have a wall of window. And I have stuff along here that is just kind of piled up willy-nilly, and I need to figure out what to do with that. And then I do have to tackle, I wrap my fabrics around comic book board, and I had done a bunch. I was feeling great, and then I kind of slowed down and petered out, and so I have fabrics that need to be wrapped. And then some of these shelves here, I need to figure out better what I'm doing with some of my items. So I have no excuses once he gets the shelves up, because he's built the other things. So I have to just really figure out what I'm doing and do it. A few things I don't know how to store. I have my patterns here, my physical paper patterns. These are the ones I have not stitched. I don't know if I love that idea, but for now it works. I put my digital patterns in page protectors and in a notebook. My paper, you can see I have rows of just paper. I don't know of any other way I really want to do it. I used to do them in shelves, but I'm not sure I still want to do that. And there's just a few other things, so we'll see. Ribbon is a kind of a pain of an issue. I do have, you can't see, I do have some cabinets that for different colors, but they're not necessarily big enough. So we'll see. I have different things I need to do. I know I'm part of that cross stitch storage or whatever page on Facebook, and I actually do like watching Facebook craft room tours. Not Facebook, YouTube ones. If you know of one or two that are really, really good and you really, really like the tour, remembering that I cross stitch, I rubber stamp, and I scrapbook, so I paper craft. I do a whole area of paper crafting, as well as which includes stamping, as well as stitching. So those are the things that I generally have stuff that I need to figure out how to store. Like metal punches. How do you store metal punches? It's, you know, I don't want to put them up on a wall or something. So those kinds of things. But if you have any good YouTube tours, let me know, because I love looking at those. I love seeing what people do. All right. Other than that, Meg had a game this week. It didn't go so well. We'll move on. They weren't quite in sync quite so well. They had a game last Saturday, which was away, so we didn't go to it. We watched it on TV, and they had one quarter that they let the other team get the advantage. Otherwise, I think they could have won it, or it would have been like a 1-goal game. But that third quarter, they kind of slept a little bit on, and let the other team score a few times, and that just kind of threw the whole thing off. Otherwise, they played tough. Tuesday's game was just, they were out of sync, I think, and just kind of not with it. So hopefully, we're now in conference play. The Centennial Conference is extremely competitive. At least 3 of the teams are in the top 20 for the country for Division 3. So we're just going to do a lot of, that's okay. Good job. Good job. You got it. You got it. You can do it, kind of clapping. Some of those teams are going to be super, super hard to play against. But, you know, that's what happens, right? Just got to keep trying and keep going out there and give it your all. Anyway, so there is a game this weekend, and the weather may turn. It might get a little bit nicer. I'm hoping, because I'm itching to use my porch more, and it's just too stinking cold, because it's not a full 4 season. We still have like a floor where, you know, the air can come up through, and so on and so forth. So it still does get affected by the outdoor weather, and it's just not quite warm enough. Maybe if I put on 10 tons of layers and a blanket and so on, but then you're kind of just a little bit too much. So I'm waiting. I feel like it was warmer in winter than it has been since spring has started. No lie. Today's tea is ginger peach, one of my favorites. I think the cranberry hibiscus spice is my favorite, but they don't sell that all year round, so I have to ration it. This ginger peach is heavier on the peach and very light on the ginger, so that's what I'm going to have some sips of once we are done here. And that is about it. I hope you are well. I hope things are going well with you and you are safe and you are healthy and doing the best you can, taking care of yourself, whatever self-care means for you, whether it is a cup of tea, whether it is stitching, whether it is going for a walk, whether it is doing a meditation, which is one of my favorite things to do. Or maybe it's cooking. Maybe that's self-care for you. Maybe it's doing your nails or whatever it happens to be. I mean, we all have different things of self-care, but find that love for you and go for it. Do it. Take care of yourself. You are important, so you need some self-care as well. So that's about it. You know, that's my little talk at the end. It took me a long time, a lot of years to realize that I needed to also, it's not selfish. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. And I needed a long time to come to that realization. And as most things in life, you know, you look back and think, oh, I wish I'd realized it a little bit sooner, but I'm just happy I've realized it now, right? You just realize what you realize, you move on, and you just go from there. So that's why I always try to focus on that, because I think it's really, really important. And it just needs to be said, and said often, so that you do remember it. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. You are important. Alrighty, that's it. That's all I got. Hope you got lots of stitching in, and until next time, happy stitching.